The Arizona Wildcats are not only the best team in America, they're certainly the best team in the Big 12, but the Cinderella story potentially brewing in Tucson is what makes this whole thing worth the while.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back in, Big 12 of Brethren. Shout out to the regulators. And we have a special crossover edition today. And Arizona, the best team in America, the best team in the Big 12. Why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown here, Leif, on as to why Oklahoma State might have at least a little bit of an opportunity to make some magic happen, because we all love college basketball and March Madness because of the Cinderella stories, because of the teams that pop up out of nowhere that aren't supposed to win. Could we potentially see some of that in Tucson, Arizona tomorrow?
I think it's unlikely because it's in Tucson. Arizona is a very good team, obviously undefeated, and they've done well to win on the road. They haven't been as convincing in some of those road games. I do think Oklahoma State presents issues. However, in Tucson, you typically see the guys that aren't the stars step up and perform better. And to me, that gives me more comfort for Arizona and what is a streaky team in Oklahoma State that presents unique style issues, as opposed to, some teams are like the JV version of the varsity team, right?
Right.
Arizona's the type where they're big and strong and they're going to beat you up inside. Well, West Virginia tries to do that. Cincinnati tries to do that, but they're just not as good as Arizona, not as deep. Oklahoma State's at least throwing you a curveball. They're throwing you something different. They got a bunch of guards who can score. They don't necessarily, you don't know who's going to step up on different days, and it's different. So I do think Arizona should comfortably win. I want to say that. But I do think Oklahoma State's got a recipe that is, if they shoot it really well from three and force turnovers, because I don't think they're going to rebound with Arizona, then there is a way. Whereas most of these teams try to match strength for strength and have not done so well.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys definitely have enough ammo in the arsenal to make this thing somewhat interesting. It'll definitely be worth getting eyes on. We have to remind all the fine folks out here, if you need to go get eyes on, you want to go get eyes on, make sure you do it Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. The bee's knees for all of your ticketing needs is available for you today. All right, brother. Yeah, so if you look at Arizona, statistically speaking, you guys are number one in the Big 12 in 7 categories, and you're number 2 in 4 other categories. The only area that you guys are anywhere near the bottom of the Big 12 is your three-point shooting. You don't seem to do a lot of it. Obviously, you don't need to when you're undefeated and beating everybody like a redheaded stepchild. But at the same point in time, if we're thinking about things that Oklahoma State could potentially exploit, we are absolutely terrible, horrendous at defending the perimeter. This may be one of the few opportunities in the Big 12 that we don't have to stress as much about defending the perimeter. Certainly you have guys that can shoot, will shoot, so on and so forth. But, some of the teams that have beaten Oklahoma State are putting up 14, 16, 17 threes. And obviously, whenever you do that, you put Oklahoma State in a precarious position. But speaking of threes, you're right. I doubt we rebound with you guys. We're not going to do a lot of hanging and banging down low. So we're going to have to make the most of our opportunities behind the arc. Anthony Roy has dropped 30 points this season. Vyctorius Miller dropped 30 points this season. We've got Parsa Fallah, who's dropped 23, 24, 25 this season. We've got guys that can do it. The problem is they're kind of inconsistent, and our best shooters have lackadaisical moments defensively. That's my biggest concern, buddy. I don't think if you are not, 100% dialed in defensively against a team like Arizona, they will eat us alive. What do you think about my synopsis? Tell me I'm crazy. Give me some insight. Hit me, Goose.
I mean, I think it's on brand. I think you're right here, because Arizona, I'll dispel one narrative, but I think you're absolutely right about what Oklahoma State brings to the table as kind of a wild card. You don't know who it's going to be, and that helps sometimes and it hurts others. But the one thing I'll dispel the notion of is that's a perceived weakness for Arizona. I actually think it's a huge strength that they're able to score 93 points against Florida, who's a really good defensive team per count on everything. And they made 2 threes. So they scored 87 points without making many three-pointers. And that's just one example. There's numerous examples. Arizona, like you said, leads, and in points per game, they're prolific. They're prolific in points per game, both in Big 12 play, and as well as.
Hey, don't go down that Utah road. Don't you do that. Don't you start talking Big 10 in here.
I don't want to compare Arizona to Utah basketball wise. That you'd be in the doldrums. No, the point I'm trying to make here is Arizona can score prolifically without the necessity of the three. So most people, all these pundits are going to say, well, Arizona struggles from three. The X factors if they can make some. I'll correct that statement and tell you it's not an X factor. If Arizona makes threes, Oklahoma State's going to lose by 30. And when I say makes three, once you hit like 6 to 10, because if Arizona hits 5, which is their average, they're going to score 85 points. And all of a sudden you move that from 85 to 100 when they start hitting threes. So it's not if they hit threes, it's if they hit a number of threes that is what the other team needs to have to stay close. Because if Arizona is anywhere between, -4 3-pointers made, meaning 12 points, then they're going to win because they're going to score in the paint. And I've got a stat for you. Arizona shoots 45% of their shots from within 5 feet. They score 58% of their points from 2-point range. They score 22% of their points from the free throw line. So that's 80% of 90 points, which is about 72, score from what I call paint-oriented points, 2-pointers and free throws. So right there, they're at 72 points. And I'm going to say it right here, I wouldn't be stunned if Oklahoma State, who is a good offense, doesn't eclipse 72 by much. So any threes added, it's just gravy. It's just gravy. So I think Arizona's perceived weakness is a strength because no matter what, they manufacture those opportunities to score without the reliance of living and dying by the three by so many teams do. They try to play the analytics so much and they end up playing themselves.
Well, I certainly don't appreciate you crushing my hopes and dreams, but I think you're 100% accurate. If Oklahoma State is walking into this, viewing this as, one of the weak points of the Arizona Wildcats, if we do that, and you do get hot from the 3-point line, which we struggle to defend, you're right. That's a recipe for an absolute disaster. But for all of the Oklahoma State country out here that have not been to an Arizona game, Gallagher-Iba Arena is very KU, very BYU-esque when we used to be good, when we used to be a tournament team every single year. I know I'm living in the olden days. I get that. But how does Arizona compete with the BYUs, the Kansases of the world, the Houstons when it comes to crowd, atmosphere? Is it going to be intimidating for Oklahoma State to get in that building?
This is a fan base that's rabid and somehow starving for success, even though you'd say like Tommy Lloyd's won 80% of the games he's coached, maybe more now that this season's off to a 22-0 start. But because they haven't won since 1997 and the expectation year in, year out is to be a Final Four, a championship caliber squad since Fred Snowden and then Lute Olson and then Sean Miller and Tommy Lloyd's just building off it, the expectation is to be great, and the fans are. And I've gone to March Madness games in various venues just as a fun thing to do with friends. And I've happened to end up at Arizona's venue multiple times by chance. And they end up traveling, and they're the loudest. I was in San Diego. That makes sense geographically. I was in Utah, and it made sense somewhat geographically. And you end up in these games, and they're the loudest portion of fans. And I've been there with Gonzaga. I've been there with Grand Canyon. I've been there with Creighton in a game that was in Denver, and that's like fairly close. So you see these rabid fan bases, and Arizona travels the best of the bunch. And so this is not going to be like – it doesn't have the history necessarily of Fog Allen, where Bill Self had up until, I think, last year, he had more conference championships than losses within that arena.
Yes, and I'll put it out there. He's an Oklahoma State Cowboy, okay? So we're going to take a little bit of that Eddie Sutton badge of honor there, but proceed.
I mean, so I say all that to say this. Like, it is a very good home crowd. This team doesn't need it necessarily, but certainly is the beneficiary of a team, the crowd supporting a team that has national championship aspirations. They know basketball and they know how to cheer for a really good team. And I don't think those aspirations are crazy because obviously number one makes it that way. But you look at the metrics and this team's something else.
Well, I mean, winning in the Big 12, traditionally speaking, over the last, 4 or 5 years, it's a badge of honor. Winning in this conference is incredibly difficult. I mean, Houston made a national title run last year and played Florida for the Natty, and it was a phenomenal ball game. And, they even got tripped up in Big 12 play a week before the conference tournament started. And I don't necessarily think that Oklahoma State's going to sneak up in this one. But I do want to cover on one more thing before we get to the ad in segment 2. You have 2 players in the top 5 in rebounds in the Big 12. You have 2 of the best rebounders in America. But it's not just about them being bigger. What about them technically wise puts them in a position to always be at the top of the boards, because you're not giving teams second chance opportunities. And that is absolutely massive. You talk about Oklahoma State having players that can score 30 points. Well, a large portion of that typically comes off of second chance opportunities. How does Arizona put themselves in a position on the technical aspect of it to prevent the other team from getting rebounds? Because there's more to it than just being big, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think being big's a thing you need to have to be as prolific as Arizona is in that category. I mean, they get 41% of their own misses. So let's say you're shooting all those 5-footers, all of a sudden you get a tip in on 4 out of 10 of those misses. And you're not going to miss that many because you're making 70% of those type of shots. So there's part of it is Tommy Lloyd. He calls it rim pressure and foul pressure. What he does is he consistently plays 2 bigs. And so teams that don't have the requisite depth or size end up suffering, and they end up going to their bench that's too small. And they get easy shots. And should they miss, they punish that. Tobe Awaka is the #1 offensive rebounder in the entire country, both by percentage and by volume. Yep. And Mo Krivas is 7'2", and they shoot shots near the basket. They shoot high-quality looks and know where the ball is going to go. So I couldn't tell you what the strategy is to grab misses, but it's relentlessness, it's pursuit, but it's also understanding where their shots in the offense are coming from, because then it's not something that surprises you to see the ball go up. They know, okay, Three of us has it 5 feet away, and Koa Pete can crash on the backside. And the other part that's made Arizona so great, and I think you were starting to allude to it there in terms of bringing up, there's 2 bigs that are top 5 in rebounding. Well, Koa Pete's the most decorated of those, and he's only averaging 6 boards a game this season, because of how great the other guys are. There's an unselfishness that I think makes the stats seem lesser, but that's what I actually think makes this team so great, is there's 5 guys who can score 20 any given night. They've actually had 7 of the 8 rotational players score over 20 points. And right now, your guess is as good as mine. Who's going to lead the team in scoring in this game? Because Braden Burries, through the first 5 games of the season, averaged 8 per game on terrible splits, and since then is averaging 18 per game on great splits. And Jaden Bradley is going to be an All-American. Koa Pete is going to be a top 10 pick. So take your pick your poison, and they're going to rebound even if they do miss. But offensively, they're elite because you don't know who to stop.
Yeah, it's definitely a cause for concern. We don't have a lot of big men per se. We've got a couple 6'10", 6'11" guys, but from a size perspective, we've only got one dude that can really bang down low with authority, and that's Parsa Fallah. And if he gets in foul trouble, I think you just alluded to it. One of the things Arizona does is they force the other team to put themselves in a corner. And yeah, it's incredible to watch, but hopefully the Cowboys can get hot and make something crazy happen. Speaking of making something crazy happen, we got to send it over to Mazda real quick, my guy.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. #1 ranked UConn dominated Tennessee 96-66, turning a halftime tie into a historic win and avenging last season's loss by delivering the largest margin in the rivalry's history. AZ Fudd had 27 points and Sarah Strong added 26 as the Huskies remain perfect on the season, reminding everyone why they are the reigning national champions. In the Big Ten, #2 UCLA rolled past #8 Iowa 88-65, powered by 22 points from Angela Dukelich and a huge advantage in the paint, staking their claim as a national threat. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, brother man, we get to roll right into segment 2, and I wanted to expound a little bit upon what we were talking about with the squad scenario in regards to perception versus reality as it pertains to the Big 12. It does seem as though, like if you look at Joe Lunardi and some of the potential bracketologies, it seems like 6 teams in the Big 12 are basically getting in no matter what, right? Unless something insane happens. But it's pretty easy to look at number 7 and number 8, which happens to be Oklahoma State at the moment, and easily see a path for them to get into the March Madness picture. Like, for example, Oklahoma State beat the absolute dog tar out of Texas A&M earlier this year by 20-plus points. And some would argue they are the best team in the SEC. I know they're currently ranked number 1. Some people say they should be ranked number 2. But no matter what, they're going to be a high seed in the NCAA tournament. And again, dude, we took them behind the woodshed and taught them a thing or 7 in that ball game, which accentuates the point that we can do it. We have the horses to play. I mean, even earlier on in the season, I know it's an exhibition, but we went after Auburn and we beat them while missing 3 starters. But since Big 12 plays kicked in, man, it's just been a lot of inconsistency, a lot of difficulties at times defensively. But as a whole, why do you think that nationally people are not viewing that 7th and 8th team as a true NCAA bid? Because you started cooking in the squad show convo, but I wanted you to expound upon it a little bit more here, brother man.
So the first thing is, for Oklahoma State in particular, they only need to do 2 things. Take care of home court. So this is less than relevant against Arizona, because if they were to beat Arizona on the road, that's the best win in all of college basketball.
Yeah.
But take care of home court. Right now, as we're recording this, there's a chance Oklahoma State knocks off BYU. Would not shock me whatsoever, because BYU is a susceptible team more so than Arizona is. They're more vulnerable to upset, in my opinion. So is Texas Tech. So is Kansas. And those are quad 1A wins. There's quad 1, and then there's the big boys of the quad 1. And
okay.
Arizona, Kansas, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Houston, and BYU are going to be top 4 seeds in March Madness. Oklahoma State's got the chance to pick a few of those off. So you get a few of those, take care of home court, and beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And right now I went to KenPom, and the projected record for Oklahoma State's 19-12. That probably doesn't do the trick. However, if you up that, you get 1 win you're not supposed to, like maybe BYU.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're at 20-11, and you beat quad 1A team, and maybe you get 1 win that people don't foresee in the tournament, the Big 12 tournament. I think they're a bubble team. Now, I will say this.
That's fair.
I think Oklahoma State is behind UCF by a decent margin. And
okay.
UCF to me is a 7 or 8 seed.
I mean, we did beat UCF for what it's worth.
I agree. But the thing is, UCF's gotten Kansas and Texas Tech. And so if Oklahoma State can add to their resume by beating a UCF, by beating a team like BYU. I believe they beat Kansas, right?
No, we beat UCF first Big 12 game. We haven't played KU yet, but it is funny you mentioned that. Bill Self himself will tell you that they do struggle in Galgaraiba, even when we're not all that great. For whatever reason, maybe it's the homecoming, maybe it's the fan base is more excited because it is Bill Self. But honestly, most of the big-time wins that I've witnessed inside Galgaraiba, it's KU. We've beat them when they're number 1, number 2, number 3, when we're not supposed to. But you know, Peterson kind of changes things because that dude's good, bro.
And if he doesn't play, though, you still play the same team with a really good resume, and all of a sudden they're more vulnerable. So to me, the bubble, and I'll give the pitch for the Big 12 here. There's 6 locks to be top 4 seeds, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think you got another that's a 7, 8, or 9 seed in UCF. And I think a team like Oklahoma State's the next positioned, and they've got the volatility, which is good and bad, to be a really good team. They can shoot well enough. You have guys who are capable of scoring 30, and there aren't many teams that have had multiple guys go for 20. Like, if you really think about it, and now you add to 25 to 30, and Oklahoma State's got a couple of those guys. And so they've got enough danger to spark and cause upsets. And so that's their path. They need to get a win that they're not supposed to, maybe 2, and take care of home court. And if they do so, they got a chance. Now, the thing I'll throw back for the Arizona fans listening here, Arizona doesn't have to think about it like, oh my gosh, like we're going to lose our seed line. Should we lose to an Oklahoma State? They shouldn't worry about losing to any team, they're a 1 seed. Like I don't point blank.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything that can happen other than losing the rest of the games of the season, which is
Yep.
realistic, that
Yep.
takes off the 1. Like, it's really, are you the number 1 overall seed is the question. And that, because you get to choose your pathway. Like, you play in San Diego for the first 2 rounds, and then you go up to San Jose, and you got a distinct geographical advantage as opposed to some teams having to travel far. And so that stuff matters in madness runs. And I don't want them to get ahead of the horse, but like, I really do think, you take care of business. Beat an Oklahoma State team at home. Like, you're favored by 20, according to Ken Palm. You may not win by 20, but you take care of business in that. You take care of business against the other teams you're supposed to beat before heading against at Kansas, Texas Tech, BYU, at Houston. Like, that's a gauntlet, and this is a bit of a trap game. Like, if I were to give you some hope for the Oklahoma State listeners here, I think this is as much of a quote-unquote trap game as there could be, because at Kansas is a house of horrors for everyone. Everyone that's ever walked into Fog House, no one does well there. So that's a Monday game. So we're playing Saturday and then going Monday. Like, Oklahoma State's best chance to me is Arizona comes out flat. And I still don't think that happens. This is a very connected, very rejuvenated team. They've done well. They played BYU on a Saturday, Monday, and they went to Provo and beat them. So I don't see that happening. But I do think Oklahoma State presents unique challenges due to their volatility and explosivity from 3.
I like your style. See, in the first segment, you had me all down in the dumps, and now you got me a little bit pumped up. And I do appreciate, real quick before we get to the ad in segment 3, I do appreciate your professional journalistic way of basically saying Oklahoma State plays bipolar basketball. That's basically what it boils down to. We're going to get to some football talk here in segment 3 because Arizona's got a lot returning. Oklahoma State has a lot incoming. But before we do that, we got to remind the fine folks out here that hiring is important. So make sure you get with the best. Indeed is exactly what you need in this hiring process. We all know it's not just about simply finding a warm body that can fulfill a role. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the right move, because instead of hoping the right person just happens to stumble across your post or into your business, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, life skills, certifications, location, etc. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want somebody with real experience who can jump in right away and help instantaneously. That's what it's like to be with Indeed. You can get specific targets and get exactly what you need. And with Sponsored Jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually the right fit. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through the mismatches. And here's a stat that says all of it. In the last minute, I've been spewing nonsense. I've been talking to you. Companies like yours have hired 27 individuals, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're thinking of hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who can check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job to the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That is Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed, because indeed you do need Indeed. I kind of like saying that. It's got, dude, I don't know why it's lagging. My thingy's lagging. So we're just going to go right into you, sir. You are up.
Well, there's nothing like being an NBA arena. I love it. I grew up a Jazz fan, and I worked for the Jazz for 4 years. And so that crowd, that infectious energy is something I adore and am used to. So getting tickets, though, that part's tough. It's not always been so simple. But that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with you guys, the fans. So pull up the Game Time app, pick upcoming NBA games, or if you want to see Arizona, Oklahoma State, by all means, Game Time's got you covered there as well. And you'll have the tickets locked in within minutes. And for me, I love basketball. I need to know what I'm looking at. And they've got the panoramic view. You see exactly where you're sitting, what obstacles are in the way. And I love seeing all the price all-in price up front, no surprise fees at checkout like other ticketing competitors. They don't surprise you and make it, oh, man, that's terrible. It's, oh, yes, that's great. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com.
Oh, now it wants to work. Okay, how about that? All right, brother man, we're going to skedaddle on off air in a bit. But before we do, let's talk a little foosball, buddy. Noah Fafita coming back made my heart so incredibly happy. We had the same thing to some degree last year, right? Sam Levitt came back. Rocco Becht came back. Josh Hoover came back. But it didn't work out for most of those individuals. So this kind of feels like a round two when you're seeing that Noah Fafita's coming back. You're seeing that Devin Dampierre's back. Bear Bachmeier's back. I think even if you look at Houston, Connor Wegman coming back's a very big ordeal. Oklahoma State gets Drew Mestemaker. So I tell you, Oklahoma State will be better in 2026 because, well, it's kind of easy when you only win one ball game. But realistically speaking, I think that the offense that Oklahoma State has been pretty famous for the last 18 of 20 years is finally back. Oklahoma State putting up 45, 50 points on a weekly consistent basis used to be the calling card. It used to be what Mike Gundy did. We got away from that. That seems to be finally back in Stillwater again. It's not pure air raid either, right? Because, of course, Mestemaker threw for 4,600 yards, but Caleb Hawkins also rushed for almost 1,500 yards because they're able to stretch the field. And I think that's going to be the key to success for Oklahoma State this season. We did not have the ability to stretch the field last year, whether it be quarterback play, wide receivers, O-linemen, whatever the case may be. We were the worst in the Big 12. We were probably, I think it was 136th in America and plays longer than 20 yards. We just weren't good at it. This year should be the exact opposite. I don't know how we're going to win fist fights in a phone booth to get 1 or 2 yards, but if we need 20, 30, 40 yards, we're finally back to that. And, defense typically wins championships, right? But you have to have an offense. You have to be able to put up points in today's game. That is finally back in Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's why the Cowboys will be significantly better in 2026. Now, let's flip to Arizona, sir. Why will your Wildcats be better again in 2026 after a very, very good season, right? When you're talking about that 9-10 win conversation, that's difficult to get to. It's even more difficult to get near it again. Why will Arizona do just that this year?
Well, the biggest thing that I think bodes well for Arizona football is essentially that they retained everyone. They a lot of people talk about additions in the portal,
right.
and then there's some people who bemoan losing players in the portal. I felt like Arizona, retained Noah Fafita. That was the guy who was the reigning quarterback of the year in the conference. And that means something. That means a whole heck of a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so not only that, you're getting a guy who's not just like, oh, he's been a good starter. No, like this is the all-time touchdown leading guy, like 70 touchdowns in his career. Prior to the bowl game, he broke Nick Foles' record. And you look at what happened in the bowl game. That was a bad taste in the mouth, and it caused Noah Fafita to come back. So to answer your question, exceeding 9 wins is tough, but I do expect more consistency. There was tumultuous stretches for Arizona. They started 1-3 in conference play, finished the year fantastic. And they got lucky as some of those teams that they played kind of lost their path. Like, I don't think that some of those teams were as good at the point where Arizona played them as they were down the road. I think Arizona is going to be better from sooner in the season than they were because they were coming off a 4-8 year with Brent Brennan, and the hot seat was piping hot. I asked all my listeners, like, what's the most wins that you see happening? And they're like, 7, because, they're 4-3 at this point when I took over the show. And I said, okay, like 7 and maybe 8 with the bowl game. Well, they're at 9 before the bowl game even happened because Noah Fafita is great. The offense is good. And the defense, the reason they lost that bowl game was defense didn't have its dudes. Like the defense were full ball hawks. They had a great turnover ratio. And I think you're going to retain not all those guys that made the defense great, but you retain the defensive coordinator. Usually when a team goes from 4-8 to 9-4, those guys who make the team grow are gone, whether it's the coaches or the players. Arizona retained a very good amount of the players, and lost none of the coaches that took them there. So Fafita is the answer, one. And two, it's just internal growth. I don't think that any of the freshmen, which is a good class coming in, are really going to make the largest difference. But I think the guys that have been there and made that team go 9-4, they're the engines, get better. I'm a huge believer in cohesion and internal growth. And I think that's the reason for, if they're to exceed double digits, that would be the reason.
What are your thoughts about the schedule? Do you think the schedule lines up comparable to last year, better than last year, much more difficult than last year? What are you thinking there?
I'd say fairly comparable. I think it's hard to know until you see what the other teams actually truly have, as opposed to just guessing. But I mean, we looked at Arizona basketball just to give you a comparison. Arizona basketball is picked 6th in the conference this year, and they play all the best teams, and they play all the best teams. Most of them twice, and a couple of them Houston on the road, and a couple others on the road. So you'd say, like, okay, they got hosed in the schedule. If you're really good, you're really good. And you only can play what's in front of you. So I'm never going to be someone who's going to overreact to a schedule, because Arizona non-conference, according to Ken Palm in basketball, they were supposed to be 9-4, and they were supposed to finish this year 21-11. Well, right now they're 22-0, so they've exceeded the total win count projected by the analysts. So to me, I don't think the schedule matters until you really see what's on the table and you play those teams, and then you go matchup by matchup. And that's just the way I'm oriented. So maybe that's not the reaction you expected, but like, that's my authentic belief of how that actually turns out.
Fair play. All right, before we let you go, give me your, in your mind, the most important home game for football, the most important road game for football. I will do the same. I think the most important home game for Oklahoma State is going to be Texas Tech. Of course, I want to say Oregon, but week 2, I don't see how we can have both the offense and the defensive units schematically lined out enough to beat Oregon. But I think at the end of the year, Texas Tech coming to Boone Pickens Stadium does give us an opportunity, if things are clicking in the right direction and the injury bug hasn't hit us. I think that could be a pivotal game for Oklahoma State. On the road, I'm going to go a little bit different here. I'm going to say West Virginia, our first game in Big 12 play, alluding back to that. I don't think we're going to be completely ready by week 2. If we're ready by week 4, Big 12 play is going to be fun. But if we're still seeing some of the hiccups that we see in week 2 and week 4, and we go down to Morgantown and lose, I do think that it could, kind of set us back a little bit on the prognostication of the season. All right, your turn.
I'm going to follow a similar suit, because I'm going to go with at West Virginia as the road game I choose as well. And the reason why is it's early. It's the first road game of the second road game of conference play. The first one's at Lavelle Edwards Stadium. That's a tough game. One, a difficult place to play, and two, that's also a spot where BYU should be favored. I'm not going to read too much into it. If Arizona wins that's gravy. But I do think West Virginia is a team that has pieces, but I don't necessarily fear. And I think if you can get a road win there, that's a barometer passing, right? Like if you're better than West Virginia on the road, then all of a sudden you've perpetuated yourselves into that top 4 or 5 in the Big 12. And that's where Arizona I expect to be by the end of the season. And as for home game, I'm actually going to go with a similar tune to what I just said for the road game. And Utah's a tough one too. I'm going to go with Iowa State, though, because Iowa State is off of a bye week and it's at home. And I think that's either a bounce back after what could be a difficult loss against West Virginia, and already having played a road game at BYU. And it's like, okay, we need to take off. Arizona had this moment. They were 1-3 in Big 12 play and then finished the year red hot. And to me, this is either you're going to carry over momentum and be really good, or you're going to have a liminal space and you're going to have a crossroads. You got to step up. And to me, that's the question, because Iowa State is a team with proud tradition. They do have a different coach. They've got some different stuff going on. But if you can step up off of a loss against West Virginia or carry momentum after a win, that to me indicates how good the team is going to be. The other one I was going to talk about was Utah. And the years that Arizona has played Utah, it's either been one team's really heading the wrong direction and one team's really heading the right direction. They've been one-sided affairs.
Really?
A couple of years ago, Arizona beat the brakes off of Utah by 30+, and that was Jed Fish's last year. And he was like, okay, like this team's really stepping up. And a couple of years ago, like that was the case. Like their momentum was certainly through the roof. And then they lose the coach, go 4-8. You get a new coach, and you finish the year on a very positive trajectory. And to me, that's kind of the same thing. It's like, can you continue that trajectory of beating a team like Utah, who should be good again this year at the end of the season? So I would go kind of a tie for the home game. I do think the most important road game is West Virginia. That's a barometer test right there.
So does Arizona beat Oklahoma State by 20 points tonight? Yes or no? Is it over or under 20, buddy?
I'll go under, actually. And here's why. I think Oklahoma State is a team that has enough shooters to knock down threes. And Arizona, I do think there's going to be like, okay, we got this in hand. Let's play some of the other players and get them opportunities sooner than in other games. I don't know. Yeah. I don't necessarily support that, but I do think having Kansas next does impact this game a little bit, mostly psychologically. But I think Arizona is going to be firmly in control. And if I were to give a key to the game, like this is going to be obvious. It's like if Arizona can win the glass by 10, they're going to win by 20, and if by 10 or more, that is, of course. And then if they're going to hit anywhere between 3 to 5 threes less or more, than Oklahoma State, they're going to win by 20. Oklahoma State's got to force turnovers and be prolific from 3 because Arizona's going to be steady. They're going to reproducibly get good looks. And so Oklahoma State's got to red line and hit a bunch of threes and try to force turnovers. So that's the path for Oklahoma State. For Arizona, what you're doing, beat them up on the inside and score against what is, I would call a softer front court in the Big 12. Like that is what holds Oklahoma State back, in my opinion.
Well, getting up and down the court and shooting threes is kind of our cup of tea. So I appreciate you for at least giving a little bit of hope for Oklahoma State country because, we have enough shooters and we typically create enough turnovers to make things interesting. So I'm excited. We could be a big boost if we could get by BYU, or obviously, if we beat BYU, then it's a big boost. Yeah. Anyways. All right, buddy. Let the fine folks out here know how they can reach you, get a hold of you. And I didn't even try to disintegrate your last name, but I believe it's Thulin. Is that accurate?
Thulin.
See, I knew that. I was just testing you to make sure you remembered. All right, buddy.
I appreciate that test. I need a memory check every once in a while with sleep deprivation. You can just follow me on my Twitter. It's listed right there. It's just my name, Leif Thulin. The L and the T are capitalized. All things college hoops on there. Talk Wildcats, talk Big 12, All Americans, whatever you want to talk about. College hoops is a huge passion of mine, and we can chop it up right there.
I like it. I love it. I can't wait to do some more of it. Oh, real quick before I let you go, you wouldn't happen to be a baseball guy, would you?
I love me a little baseball.
Because I could talk baseball all the time. And getting out to Arizona is definitely on my bucket list to see some baseball. So, hopefully we can do this again here for too long. All right, brother, man. I greatly appreciate your time. For all you fine folks out there, on my end, God bless. Go Pokes. Leif, what do you typically leave your people with? Give them a sign off, boss man.
I'll usually hit them with, as always, thanks for listening and bear down, baby.
Bear down. All right. Except for tomorrow. Yeah, don't bear down. All right.